Concrete Warriors by Big Al Story, Chapter 1, Mirror. My old face looks back at me through the mirror. I see it every morning. My chunky fingers rub across its surface. It feels soft. It looks weathered. But my thoughts run deeper than the pitted skin on my tanned cheeks. Is this face really mine? I've seen it in photographs. I see its reflection every morning. I even see it when I shut my eyes. Technically speaking, I see it, but it's not mine. It's just a photograph, a reflection, a thought. The only face that's really mine is this one, the one I see from, the one I speak from. Before I give them permission, my first words of the day leave my head. I hear them bounce off the mirror and echo off the tiles. He's mine, but I can't see him. I haven't seen my son in 20 years. He was just a newborn the last time that I saw him, in the flesh. I looked deeper into the eyes in the mirror. My routine paused. Two brown eyes watching me doing absolutely nothing. Jolting back to action, the cold water splashes from my hand and wakes me up. I pat it through my slightly thinning hair. Under my skull, my brain ticks back into its unique gear of poetic overthought. If I really wanted to see my own face, I'd have to surgically remove my eyes and point them back towards my head. My eyeballs could be gently pulled away from the sockets while keeping the optic nerves operational. In the depths of my overthinking brain, I create a ridiculous contraption. Both my eyes sit in separate beakers of saline fluid. Looking back at myself, it's all fuzzy. I can't focus. The necessary muscles aren't attached in order to move the lenses. I still can't see myself. Fluid starts to leak from where the optic nerves come through the bottom of the beakers, and my mind designs delicate grommets to hold my nerves in place. Impossible. Immediately I start again. In the dark space of my mind, I plop two eyeballs back in the beakers. This time the optic nerves hang over the rims, like those fucked up straws they give you these days. The picture I see is fuzzy, upside down. What a fucking way to start the day. I pull the comb through my hair. I always fucking do this. Overthink, create, problem solve. It's why they pay me the big bucks at work, I guess. I seem to just overthink until I get a result for the task at hand. Looking back through the mirror, I focus all my attention through my mind, through the fluid, through the glass, and then crystal clear I see it. Two gaping holes staring back at me. Blood drips from the cavity where my eyes were. I see it. I see it so clearly. But that's not my face either. I comb my fringe to the left and push it up for my slightly unique messed up look. I know everyone technically sees it the opposite way, pushed to the right, but I'm sure they get the overall look. Professional, composed, and with just a bit of wild on top. Fucking ready to go. Anyways, I'm finished my routine. The comb clings back into its spot in the glass. I stand there and look at myself. A brown-eyed, tanned, 40-year-old concreter. Pretty rugged, pretty serious, and pretty ready. A concreter, not a father. I've not really got anywhere to be today. Looking a bit longer, a bit deeper, I still see nothing. I'm not going to work, and I'm fucking nervous about it. I've got a date with destiny. I'm a concreter. It's pretty fucking rare that I don't go to work. The last day off I had was about 4 years ago. I couldn't make it because I had to go to court for speeding fines. Cost me fucking $1,200. I missed a whole day's work just to rock up to court. So really, with my lost earnings, it probably cost me over $2,000. And because we were one man down, the boss put one of the juniors in my spot. Fuckwit is what I like to call him. He was probably on Twitter or fucking TikTok or some shit. I heard he fucked the whole job. Cost us heaps more than $2,000. My overactive thoughts pretend to follow me out of the bathroom. Even if my routine is slower than usual, it still goes through the same familiar tasks. I exhale and look straight back into my eyes, back in the mirror, and acknowledge that I still haven't moved anywhere at all. My mouth slightly open, I just stand there looking at myself. The young fellas think they understand, but they don't. You only get one chance with concrete. When it's set, it's done. Hairdressers don't understand either. They think they've got it hard. They're always saying you can't glue it back on once you've cut it, but we're the ones who've really got it hard. When it's set, it's done. You can't take any more off. You can't really add any more back on either. Just part of the job, I guess. Better to learn that sort of shit when you're younger. When it's set, it's done. So yeah, the $1,200 in fines probably cost us about 60 grand because Junior, or fuckwit as I like to call him, was busy on his phone. My truck usually does 150, 155 max. To wind up in court, I got 4 tickets in one day. Each camera clocked me at exactly 158, but I got the gear and fuckwit to the job with time to spare. The first mixer was late by half an hour and we used every last second of it to set up. We worked like purpose and waved the first truck in bang on 7:30. Of course they weren't apologetic for being late, but I told them that we'd been waiting all fucking morning. Just another little lesson for fuckwit. There's always blame to be thrown. Fucking throw it or be hit. Me, fuckwit, and another young bloke were the ones on site. We did the work of about 8 men on an 8-hour day in about 2.5 hours. The boss offered to pay the fine, but I said no. I'm fucking proud of it. Chapter 2. Thumb. Anyway, we got the job done. My fuckwit Junior, though, he was on TikTok the whole drive there. I don't even think he knew we were speeding. Compared to the speed of his scrolling thumb, my truck was probably just crawling along the highway. Anyways, even after costing us 60 grand, he kept his job. He worked for a few more years, the little cunt. I still dream of concreting his phone into the foundations and leaving the charging bit out. I bet the little fucker would try to charge it. I'd fucking pay the $1,500 for his new phone, just so I could see him run the extension cord. Little cunt. I think his real name's Stephen or Alan or something. I had so many other names for the little cunt that Stephen or Alan just never felt right. Fuckwit, Wit, Whitney, Long Black. I called him that sometimes so he wouldn't fuck up my coffee order. I used to get a few strange looks when I called him Long Black. Was worth it, I guess. But I guess he still managed to fuck the orders up. Maybe I should have christened him with the last name too. First name Long Black, last name No Sugar. Or maybe just No Sugar. Yeah, No Sugar, that could have worked. Definitely takes the sexual connotations out. There's a few other names he had, but it depended on where we were, who we were with, and what I was saying. Anyways, I digress. I get distracted and overthink. A lot. I'm still standing here looking at my hard face in the mirror. My overthinking is good and bad. On our job site, I'm the unofficial go-to guy, the problem solver. I'm an okay planner, but my strength is on site, when the problem actually pops up. Everyone stands there with their fingers in their asses, and I've usually already thought about 6 ideas that won't work. By the time they pull their fingers out and have a sniff, I've usually got an idea that'll work. By the time they're about to say, "What are we going to do?" I'm usually fucking doing it. Okay, we need 5 blokes down this end and the ute over here so we can still get the fuck out of here when we're done. This section of Rio needs to be moved ASAP so the truck can get through. When he's poured all of that side, he can come back through here and pour the section that you took out over there. All fingers out and all hands on deck to get it back in. Whit's the only one not on Rio. Whitney, you're on traffic because the front of the truck will hang out on the road to about there on the last pour. Let's go. I'm pretty fucking good, but generally I don't look like I am. If people ask me when I'm still thinking, I just ignore them. Like the other day we had some idiot's ute parked inside our boxing on top of the Rio. I couldn't have done it if I tried, but anyways, here the problem was, right in front of us. The mixers arrived just as we started looking for the stupid cunt. He disappeared off the face of the earth. Whitney looked up the plate details on his phone, but it wasn't much help. It was such an obvious problem that everyone came to me for a solution. Sometimes easy problems have hard solutions, or no solutions at all. I had absolutely no fucking idea what to do, so I kept saying nothing. I walked off to give myself space. Giving myself space is not a term commonly used on the job site, but that's exactly what I was doing. Moody cunt is the word often used around me. It's not really my name, more of just a straightforward description. Anyways, I walked off across the road to think, through the grassy parking lot, past an elephant to the ticket gate. The circus was still setting up, but it was pretty busy because they were still doing feeding tours with the animals. That's when I thought it, or felt it, or saw it. I took 3 steps to my right and could see a Franna crane. Instantly I turned from moody cunt into desperate mate, and the Franna arrived to our job site with 6 carnies. I learnt pretty quickly that carnies and concreters don't really mix. Society doesn't like either of us, but we don't seem to like each other either. Anyways, the carnies put us to shame. They said heaps by saying nothing and anything, and the ute was rigged up within a few seconds. Whitney did the most useful thing I've ever seen him do. The little fucker went live and started filming the whole thing on his phone. I don't know how or why, but it brought the 2 groups together. Fucking high fives and durries everywhere. I stood back and let them work. I gave a slight smile as my overthinking continued. In my useless head I could see myself trying to lift a car all by myself, sitting on top of an elephant, struggling. Long story short, the ute ended up in the circus car park, surrounded by and full of elephant shit. Anyways, I digress. I'm still fucking standing here, still nervous. My hair still looks the way it does. My overthinking usually does one of 2 things. It helps me to get the task done, or it just distracts me. I could have a whole pile of dirt to move, and I might just stand there and be distracted by my thoughts all day. Where does the dirt come from? Are all the tiny rocks in their different ages? When are rocks technically born? How long would it take for the rain and the wind to completely flatten this pile? I could stand there in the sun all day, distracted by my thoughts. If no one screamed at me or pushed me, I could stay there just staring for a whole season. As the sun goes down on another season, I'd just walk off with nothing but a shovel over my shoulder and a sunburnt neck. But if the pile was distracting my view, I could have it moved in seconds. I don't know how, but put me on the spot and I can make it happen. The only real view in front of me is my crazy hair. I pat down those few disobedient and wild strands. I don't want to look like a crazy concreter, even if I am one. This is an important meeting. I need to get it right. This meeting is more important than any court appearance, more at stake than any quoting negotiation I've ever had, harder than any problem I've ever magically fixed on sight. Whatever the result of this meeting, it will surely set hard. That's what happens. When it's set, it's done. The rest of my aging life could be permanently and negatively affected by this one encounter. I try combing my hair to the right. It sticks back up like I knew it would. I look at it blankly as I think further. What's he going to think of me? I've never seen him. I wonder how he does his hair. Does he floss? Is he the sort of person that can be distracted by a mirror for 45 minutes? I've never seen my son. Well, I was there for his birth 20 years ago, but I've never seen him since. Not in the flesh. He had long, thin hair that stuck flat to his little head. I don't even know if it looked like my hair or not. I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if he had my brown eyes. It made me feel strange to look at him, like I'd poured the biggest slab in the southern hemisphere without even looking at a plan. It just happened. I stood there holding him. I remember thinking that I would never drop him. I could just never. I held him firm against my chest, and then I imagined throwing him against the wall. I never would, but for whatever reason, that's the thought that skimmed through my fucked up head. It could never happen. I would always protect him. I remember thinking his eyes were lifeless, like he hadn't seen a single hard thing in his short little existence. He hadn't done much at all, really. When he started to cry, I remembered thinking, his tears sure look real for such a young fella. I looked longer and deeper into his eyes. A glimmer of happiness looked back at me. I looked at Linda, and she smiled too. I could have stood there in that frozen distraction all day, all season, all year. Maybe I'm still standing in it. When I handed him back to his mother, it was like his fragile weight shifted a switch in her. In the moment that her arms curved back around him, her face changed. The smile melted, went soft. The smallest frown sat around her eyes, but the fact it wasn't a smile said everything. She held him in his little bundle of cotton, just slightly to one side of her chest, and I knew. She was protecting him. Part of me was happy that he had a fully functioning, real and emotional mother, but part of me was relieved. part of me wanted to stay. I stood there in the middle of my thoughts in that grey room of the hospital. From the outside I built 4 little walls around them. Brick by brick it zipped up through my imagination. I looked down at my concrete work boots. When I looked back up, the wall had gone. They were just sitting there, alone on a small concrete slab, mother and child. Sweat stuck maternal brown hair to her forehead. She looked beautiful. Her protective face pierced back through my imagination, and everything disappeared. As I sat down, we realised that we were just 2 young adults that didn't really know each other. 2 young adults with no idea what to do with the ancient responsibility sitting in front of us. I remember thinking, well, she looks protective. She must have some idea on her mind, some idea of what to do. Me, I felt numb. I've stood in so many places in the last 20 years thinking about so many other problems. What I've thought most about is my lack of thought. Was it right to be so numb that day? There's no solid answer in my head. Should I have said something? What should I have said? Do warriors go numb when shit gets real? Flight, fright or freeze? I really have no idea. But in the moment, I fucking froze. I looked down. My feet just stuck there, set in concrete. I couldn't move. I wouldn't move. Everything was set. It usually happens when I'm directing traffic at work. After 15 minutes of standing, I start to ask myself the same questions over and over again. The traffic of thought travels premeditated routes. It goes anywhere, everywhere, and basically ends up at the same destination. A place where I'm just standing and feeling empty. The strange symbols on both sides of my sign mean nothing to me. I haven't stopped, and I'm not going. Did I freeze because I was ready to fight? Unshakable, my protective instincts gluing me to the spot. Was I just getting ready to work, ready to fight for whatever was needed? Did I scare her by just standing there like a dusty warrior in my chunky concrete boots? Or was I just frozen myself, petrified, set like concrete? Scared of the immensity of the scene in front of me, a deer in the headlights. I had no fucking idea, but in reality, I just stood there. Eventually she looked up from her son and said the most useful thing of the day. She asked for my home address. I wrote my full name, my mobile number, my home number and my address on a scrap piece of paper. I left it there on the grey little table. It seemed like the most useless task in the world, but somehow it gave my stubborn feet permission to move. I shuffled out of the hospital like I had one of those arse-presenting gowns on. I drove home at my normal speed. When I realised I wasn't driving anywhere in particular, I just slowed down. I stopped. This really is ridiculous. I brush my hair back to the left. I don't rough it up. I get back to the task at hand. I look at the dull face in front of me and the thoughts start again, almost immediately. The brown skin on the back of my hand. What do his hands look like? How does he brush his hair? My brown eyes look back at me. They keep asking questions. Does he think too deep like me? How does his hair grow? Is he like me or is he something completely different? Will he like me? Is he mine? I touch the cool mirror with the roughness of my hand. He's mine. He's mine like my face is mine, but I've never really seen him. I've never touched him. Not since that day. Finally, my searching face sits alone at the kitchen table, staring at my coffee. I fucking love coffee. I didn't even drink much piss at the pub that afternoon. Linda had her share, and I had mine. Once I started talking to her, I knew exactly what I was doing. Well, sort of. I definitely didn't know her name at the time. She told me about 5 times, but I couldn't hear over the band. All I knew was that her name had 2 syllables, and she laughed about it every time she told me. When I could finally hear it, I was too drunk to remember it properly. She had pretty hazel eyes, curly brown hair, and a butterfly tattoo. I think she told me what it was about, but she might have just been smiling and laughing at anything, really. It was 2001, and me and the boys had just finished a massive job. The biggest job I'd ever been on in my short career. We started drinking at about 3, but the sun was still blaring like midday. The sand bright white, the ocean bright blue, ladies laughing. We couldn't ask for more. I got a bit more than I bargained for, but at the end of the day, I still remember the afternoon as a good afternoon. If I physically go to the same pub now, I feel a bit flat. It reminds me that there's a life out there that I'll never remember. No matter how hard I try, I can't. It's impossible to remember when you were never there to build the memories in the first place. When we do go there these days, the younger fellas always ask me what's up. I keep refusing drinks, they keep offering. The timeline is pretty predictable. They have just enough to start calling me moody cunt, the name they usually use when I'm not around. They laugh, and they have a bit more. They get to a point that they forget to ask. When we go there these days, the younger fellas always ask me what's up. I keep refusing drinks, and they keep offering. The timeline is pretty predictable. They have just enough to start calling me moody cunt, the name they usually use when I'm not around. They laugh, and they have a bit more. They get to a point where they forget to ask. It's a predictable little time frame. There's also a half-hour window, closer to leaving, where if they haven't hooked up with a lady, they'll start arguing with each other. And if they don't argue with each other, they'll argue with someone else. Their timing is as predictable as well-mixed concrete on a sunny day. So I sip black coffee in my dark kitchen. My rough hands swirl the ceramic mug. The dregs of a long black settle neatly. I'm not sure you can read coffee dregs like tea leaves. I don't actually care. I throw it in the hatchet and swirl every last piece of gritty coffee in my mouth before I swallow it. The lukewarm bitterness soothes my throat. I love coffee. I'm sitting here in a dark room with no coffee and nowhere to be, so I may as well make another one and tell you the rest of my story. Rat was there in the pub that day. He was 20 as well. We were the same age, but we felt pretty different. Some days he'd seem about 27 as he told other blokes to fuck off. Other days he'd seem like he was 17, just walking in circles with his finger in his arse. Then other days I felt like he was about 82. Through his gravelly voice over lunch he'd offload some wisdom to me. Life, women, love, death. He told me about all of it. Between each nugget of wisdom he sucked on a litre bottle of iced coffee. His caffeine and nicotine addiction made him seem exactly the age and exactly the person he was. A 20-year-old concrete warrior named Rat. I loved Rat, but not in a gay way. I can't explain it. That bastard's made me cry more times than I can think. More than anyone in my life. I haven't seen him in 10 years, but some days I'll just be at work. I'll think of him and what he might say in a situation, and I just tear up. Sometimes I actually act like him. When I find myself acting like Rat, I don't cry. It's impossible. Anyways, the silly bastard went up north, and then I think he went into the mines or something. If he was here in this kitchen right now, he'd be sucking an iced coffee and asking if it's okay to smoke inside. I'd follow him out to the patio for a smoke. I don't smoke, but we'd both sit there in a cloud of nicotine and just talk shit. It's a weekday today, but he'd laugh his raspy laugh and start organising a drinking adventure for tonight. I'd sit in silence and watch him light another cigarette. He'd draw back with a frown on his face and have no idea how many times he's made me cry. I love Rat. I miss the bastard. There's no fancy mirrors in my house except for the one in the bathroom. If I was looking in a mirror right now, my eyes would be all puffy. No tears, just puffiness. The men can't see it on the work site. Puffiness is hard to see because it's just one part of the mix that contains it. 20 years of sun exposure, 5 caffeine hits per day, a strict daily beer regiment, years of regret, fine concrete dust, the underlying stress of the next job, and puffiness. The recipe definitely doesn't contain tears. The salt would fuck everything up. But trust me, the ingredients of this puffiness are what makes the building of concrete jungles like the Gold Coast possible. Anyways, I have a keen eye for puffiness. When I talk directly to it, with the wisdom of Rat, lunch usually goes just a little longer. Even if the slab gets poured 4 minutes late, I'll take the time. Puffiness is part of the whole mix. You can't ignore it. I turn the light on and brew another coffee. Leaning on the bench, I see the blue digital clock numbers on the shiny coffee machine. 8 a.m. on the dot. I'm meeting him at 3 p.m. this afternoon. I've been keeping it to 2 coffees a day for a while now, but technically I've got time for about 6. The earthy chocolate smells of coffee filters through my nostrils. The years of muscle memory in my hands makes it quickly, and then I lean back at the table and stare at the beauty that is my coffee. At the pub, Rat was there, Linda was there, and a band was there. I can't remember their name, but they were a covers band. Pretty good, pretty loud. It's strange. I remember all the songs they played. I know them all by name, but what's stranger is I don't get emotional when I hear them. When the radio blasts them across the worksite, they just remind me that there was a day. A day happened. It occurred. It feels like they just scribble an entry in my mental calendar. 6th of June, 2001. Kingsbreeze Hotel. Got Linda pregnant. What's possibly stranger is that when I usually hear certain recorded songs, I get very emotional. If the right song spills out the radio, I turn into a puffed up bag of salt in less than 20 seconds. The sound of the radio is a constant on our worksite. There's an AC/DC song that puffs my whole face and leaves a lump in my throat. It doesn't take me to any place or time in particular, just a dark space. A disapproving frown stares back at me from a dim area. No words, no place, just judgmental eyes staring at my hollowness in its entirety. My father left when I was 10, but when I think of him through songs, it stops the speed of my day. He was barely in my life, but he gave me judgment, and I carry it heavy. There's another song that takes me to another place. I'll be having a regular day on site and a particular Silverchair song will come on. Instantly I'm transported up north, to dark skies and the best fishing day ever. Silently the tinny slid into the water. The metallic sound of the anchor chain rapping against the hull was swallowed whole. The dawn air swallows everything. Salty water lapped at the rubber and engulfed the corroded metal of the boat trailer. Complete silence. No breeze, water as flat as freshly screeded concrete. The only noise playing within the silence was the rambling buzz of the radio. As the song came on, I knew it was a hit. Life was perfect, or as good as it was going to get for a while. The perfect soundtrack seemingly came out of nowhere and filled all the space it could find. I looked at my skipper, who was a very rat-like mate with an honest appetite for fishing. A hunger bigger than the ocean itself. I have no idea what the lyrics of the song were, but the line I heard and the line that has stuck with me is, about no one, and nothing in particular. I'm not sure if the words mean anything. I looked at my skipper, who was a very rat-like mate with an honest appetite for fishing. A hunger bigger than the ocean itself. I have no idea what the lyrics of the song were, but the line I heard and the line that has stuck with me since is, about no one, and nothing in particular. I'm not sure if the words mean anything, but the way I hear them takes me somewhere. I feel like in some way I feel like that song, organised but meandering. It's not rock music, but it somehow sounds like it is. I've always loved it.